So yeah, you all sort of mention how I have to take breaks now and then and just relaxation. So I went yesterday to the COWSINO, and I was at the bar having a cup of coffee, and SIRLOIN walked in, the cow, the chief negotiator for the cows that got their stimulus check, and sort of shook right in and sort of sat down next to me. Can you move over? Yeah, I can move over. He's like, oh, hey, how are you? Yeah, I'm like, I recognize you. You're the guy that got them the stimulus checks before us. He's like, yeah, how's your movement going? Well, it's, we're pushing along. I see you got your stimulus check. What did you do with your stimulus check? Oh, well, I bought the wifey a new car. A new car? Oh, yeah, Cadillac. A white and spot interior, beautiful. But what are you doing? Are you having the lobsters help you? No, I'm not. That's Mitch's thing. Oh, you pass around some pot for AOC? No, no. So what are you doing? Well, we're supporting the problem solvers bill. That's the bill to get forward. Oh, what's the problem? Well, the problem is we don't have the stimulus checks. Well, have you talked to Nancy about it? No, I mean, she doesn't talk to anyone. What did you do? Well, I mean, we just, tug on things. That's a bad visual. It's like, oh, I see you have some coffee there. You want some cream? I'm like, no, Dad, I don't want cream. I'm trying to enjoy my day off of some second stimulus, trying to get people stimulus checks. Oh, well, it's the grass is always greener on the other side. That's what I always say. Oh, yeah, I say that too. Well, that's until I eat it. Cow humor. I don't find that funny. Sorry. Well, I've heard it. It's until you've heard it before. It's just sort of the tip of the iceberg. Tipping cows. Can you just give me some free time? I have to get some stimulus check for some people. Oh yeah, I'll just sort of move along. I have to go graze. I'm going out to pasture, unlike Nancy. Hey, good afternoon, or good evening, or good movement to you. This is LALATE. Hope you're good and safe, and this is Evenings LALATE, part of our 1 hour programming block every night on this block of programming. This is about the check. What big developments and great news tonight about your second stimulus check, despite what SIRLOIN wants to do with you, and despite the tipping of the cows along the way. Coming up next after this is Purple Power, with a big development about what's going on social media. It's incredible. And if you've not been part of the movement, then tonight is the night to join it. Please go to the front of this channel, subscribe. This is an incredible growing community that really has its eyes on the prize. And the prize is getting this done and getting to this finish line. We're so close, and we're doing incredible progress. Also, like this video. I have a lot of details I'm going to be going over tonight, and we're starting right now. The breaking news tonight is that a bill is coming on Monday, and it's not something you should like. And so we're trying to get ahead of the story and say this is the focus of where we are, and it's so far working. What's unfortunately not working is the White House, with no executive order in place, complete silence from the executive team of the president's cabinet members, no talk of stimulus from anyone, and the only pressure that we seem to have effective upon is congressional leaders who now feel that their seats are up for grabs if they don't give us stimulus. That was exactly the purpose of our movement. So as we start this afternoon, how important is the next couple of days, and where are we going, and why is the stimulus now ever more important, not just for airlines, not just for us, but for what's coming up in the coming days? Let's get to the incredible details right now. The details right now is that there is a bill, and then there's a looming bill, and it's not something you want to like. So you want to keep the focus on where we are. The focus is the problem solvers bill. It's a $1.5 trillion bill introduced by a bipartisan group of Republicans and Democrats over a week ago. And while a proposal, it is endorsed by Republicans and Democrats who have a common theme to get something done. Ironically, when it was debuted, it got an enormous amount of an agreement from one group, and that group was the White House. The president, Mark Meadows, everyone involved with with the president, including Steve Mnuchin, said, this is a bill the president would sign right now. It was no less than 5 days before the president was at 1.3 trillion, went to 1.5, and in fact would say, well, he would go a little bit higher. I've been reporting for over several months that the president will go to 2, but for some reason the Democratic leadership does not want to go to 2. In fact, viewers have asked me, why doesn't we just do this at 1.5 to 2 and get it done? That's the problem, is that everyone knows where this can get done and no one's going to that spot. That's why the next couple of days is so important. When the problem solvers debuted the bill, they fully said that that is a starting point and it needs to be revised. Well, there's a couple of revisions as we're starting the new week that absolutely we're in favor of. The first one is a revision to checks. The second one is a revision to FPUC. And the third one is a revision to hazard pay, which is not even in there. First, the checks. Problem solvers bill, $1,200 checks for individuals, $2,400 checks for married couples, $500 checks for dependents needs to be changed. It needs to be $1,200. Needs to be $1,200. These are people on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and railroad benefits who are dependents on others' tax returns that didn't get a check the first time around, so they got 0. And this time you want to give them $500, not $1,200? $1,200 for dependent checks, whether minor dependents or adult dependents. This is how we get to the finish line. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a Democratic position, and it's actually a position that most people agree upon. The only people that really see this $500 dependent as an issue are really cheap Republicans who are out to here that don't want to give anyone stimulus. There's no justification for a $500 dependent check. We've never heard of it. I've never heard of it. So that's great news. The next thing of great news that needs to be modified is the number of people in the household. It needs to be a 5-person household. We're not quite clear from the problem solvers bill how many people are in the household. We certainly understand it may be 5. It should be 5. Taken out, not taken out for child support, not taken out for child support, not taken out for collections, and would have a second check in the month of March of next year. All incredibly great news. Now, I fully admit that everyone wants multiple checks at a higher amount. It's just not happening with this group of people. We're trying to get to the finish line, and this is the finish line right in front of us. Next, FPUC. This is incredibly great news. $450 a week for 8 weeks, then 5 weeks to $600 thereafter. This is where we need to be because no one has ever given us anything that good. Steve Mnuchin during the July negotiations went as high as $400 and stopped. $400 a week. It was rejected by Nancy Pelosi. Now, 10 weeks later, you would have had 10 times $4,000 in your bank account. Instead, you have 0. So when we're offered $450 now, plus $600 a week, yeah, it's only a difference of about $90 more per week than what Steve Mnuchin offered us, but it's something we need to take. The only thing that needs to be revised on it is retroactive. It needs to be retroactive to the date at which FPUC 1.0 expire, which is late July. Next, hazard pay. Hazard pay is not on the problem solvers bill. It needs to be in the problem solvers bill. The reason was omitted, I've detailed a lot, is because Nancy Pelosi didn't meet with the problem solvers. It didn't get in there. Next, EIDL is in the problem solvers bill, which is absolutely categorically incredible. Even the Democrats don't even put EIDL in their proposals. But it needs to be revised. It needs to be $10,000 for the grant. It needs to be EIDL loans with no caps. Those are 2 critical issues which I've detailed, ad nauseum on this channel. Javier Carrano is putting a cap on EIDL loans currently. Even if you qualify for a higher loan, she won't give you a higher loan. That shouldn't be the case. If you qualify for a higher loan, you have the Experian Vantage 3.0 score and credit score, and you have the 2019 calculations of gross rev and cost of goods sold that shows you qualify for a higher loan. You should have a higher loan. You shouldn't be getting these small loans which won't survive you through this pandemic. And additionally, an EIDL grant, you should be entitled to the $10,000 grant. I mean, that is as simple as pie. That is the problem solvers bill. It's absolutely categorically incredible. And to the extent that it is missing something, like the airlines, which is $25 billion, you put it in and we're done. And everything else, we're done. We're done. The president has said he'll sign it. The president will certainly sign $25 billion additionally for the airlines. So then we go to the next thing we have to focus on, which is the deadline. This deadline is more serious and apparent than ever before. And some people, it takes a little second or two to sort of grasp where we are with this deadline. This is a deadline that we're using opportunistically for our own purpose. The deadline is because the airlines are jumping back into the second stimulus package. They want their money in the stimulus package, not as a standalone bill. I understand that they were standalone for like 2 hours with Susan Collins and Wickers writing them a bill of their own, which got tossed to the sea. They're back in the stimulus package. They have an October 1st deadline. And with that October 1st deadline, it's serious. It's financially serious. Let me explain how financially serious it is. We're talking about all U.S. commercial airlines. We're not talking about one airline. We're talking about all of them. They all have a deadline teeing up, and that deadline is around October 1st. If they don't get the stimulus package approved, this is what's going to happen. They're immediately going to lay off tens of thousands of employees. Then they're going to cut routes across the country. So you won't be able to get from city to city that normally the routes you could normally do. You just can't fly from certain places. Third, airline companies that are dependent upon the airlines that either provide parts to the airlines or build the airlines or do things for airlines will all slowly implode. They'll lay off people, they'll shut down operations, they won't have money to run their businesses. Airlines are a major part of the U.S. transportation industry. So if you shut down or cause the collapse of airlines, everything around that is going to go very bad very quickly. It's October 1st. So by having an October 1st deadline, this is an opportunistic way for us to get to the finish line. We have a deadline in front of us. The paramount problem that we have had is that despite the fact that we've had FPUC expire in late July, we've had a lot of things like loan forgiveness expire in July, we've had a lot of things like your rent and your mortgage and things due, these people in Congress never saw there was a deadline for us, the Purple Power, and they never saw us having a deadline. We were just something they can get to when they felt in the mood. It was absolutely disgraceful, it was categorically disrespectful, and it was myopic and apparently unrealistic to understand the situation. Now, as we sit here today, we have finally something we can anchor ourselves to the finish line. And I understand it may make you feel upset. Please don't let it do. We're going to focus on positivity. An October 1st deadline means the president would sign the bill on October 1st, the Senate would would approve it on the 30th, and the House would approve it on the 29th. Now, to get that problem solvers bill to the finish line, we got to get the people that are behind it introducing as a bill, voting on it, and approving it. And that's why there's been a big social media campaign that this channel has launched on Twitter in which we've tweeted those three groups. The first group is the problem solvers. There's a series of Twitter accounts of every representative of the problem solvers. They're not a large number of people. It's about 25 people in the problem solvers. The Republicans and Democrats, the House and Senate, they're very important to tag because they are bipartisan. It's their bill. The next group is the Blue Dog Democrats. These are Democrats and they're only a certain number of people, about 25 people. The last group is the New Democratic Coalition. These are House members only who are Democrats, but it's a lot of them. It's about 200 of them. They're not particularly the people who wrote the bill. But of those three groups, we're trying to push them to push it to the front line, to go to the finish line. Now, this is the situation of where everyone is in that group. 2 days ago, a massive letter was written by about 30 congressional senators, Republicans and Democrats, and House and Democrat people to Nancy Pelosi. Says, hey, you need to do a simple bill, a new bill that's bipartisan, and get it done. Also, we're not going home. We are not going home until we get this done. Now, this going home thing is a little bit confusing. It's even confusing for me. So let me explain to you what's going on. They actually have just arrived into town this last week. So as we sit here on Saturday, they worked Monday to Friday this week, or Tuesday to Friday this week. That was their first set of real official days in several weeks, back from their vacation. Guess when their next vacation starts? Around October 1st or October 2nd. Now, Nancy Pelosi said we're not going to leave unless we have a deal. But she said that before. So did Mitch say that before. They said that in July. They lied to us then and they left. Well, are they leaving or are they not leaving? This is what's important for you to understand, is that the people who wrote this letter said, we're not leaving. You can leave if you want, but we're not leaving. And people ask me, well, who can push it to a vote? A lot of people can push it to a vote. You don't need one person to push something to a vote. Ultimately, if you get enough voters to approve something, it'll get approved. It does not require the same person to introduce the bill. So that's the incredible great news there. The next part of news is the president. Is this good news? Is this confusing news? We don't know. The president has not exerted his executive authority. And despite everything else that's going on this channel, left and right and cows and sirloin, viewers still believe the president's going to do these stimulus checks by executive order, that the president's going to pull a card out of his back pocket, and people call it the Trump card, and send out stimulus checks. A few more think that he's going to do FPUC, and then very few think he's going to do hazard pay. But a lot of people think he's going to do stimulus checks. Hasn't done it. Now, things just sort of appear for him for particular reasons, and we don't know why. On Thursday, I think it was in South Carolina, at a rally, in the middle of a speech, he said, "Oh, and by the way, I'm going to be sending out $300 assistance checks or funds to people on Medicare to pay for medicine. I love my senior citizens." What? It was so non-fanfare. It was just sort of in the middle of a paragraph of a sentence, and he just said it. Everyone was like, "What did he just say?" And people actually, the news reports said, "What is he referring to?" That's how he's certainly doing things right now. The question is whether he will be as vague as that when it comes to stimulus checks, or actually just get it done. Sometimes he's been very affirmative about when he's going to do something, and then it just sort of floats out. The point is, it's almost time, as this channel has been now saying, checks or check out. Checks or check out. Either you give us our checks or check out. I mean, check out of the White House because you're not giving us our checks. The president has promised us checks in June, July, August, September, October. No, we haven't gotten to October yet. Back up. September. So why have we not gotten to the checks? He has the funds, $300 billion. He's not sent out the funds. And as we sit here today, it's like, okay, why not use the funds? I mean, you know what the pop that's going to give you? It will give him about a 3% pop in the polls. He needs a 3% pop in the polls. Is he waiting to the last second? Well, it only gives you a pop when you have the check in the hand. That's what we saw the first time around. You don't get a pop just by saying it. You get a pop when people actually have the check in their hand, and then they go vote the next day. Unfortunately, maybe he's just not planning this out clear enough as the rest of the viewers of the show have been thinking of it through. And then there's Monday. On Monday, you're going to see a bunch of crap. There's no other way to say it. It's a bunch of crap. You're going to see a bunch of crap coming from a person who simply is delusional at this point, and simply is in her own universe and her own way, her way of the highway, and all she's doing now is repeating the same thing she's repeated for upwards since last July. In July, she was at 2.4 when she sat in a room with Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows for 2 weeks negotiating on behalf of Democrats, and they said no, and the president said no, and Republicans said no, and on Monday, she will introduce a bill that's at 2.4 trillion, which by its own number will never pass, will never become law, and so she's going to introduce it for the purposes of a press game, a publicity stunt. Nothing more than a darn publicity stunt not to give you stimulus checks, because it won't do anything. Her game of I'm going to not move unless, I'm going to stay here unless, has not worked. It has not worked. And what it has done is caused the homelessness of American society. And as you sit here tonight, we have to ignore her, but we also have to get in front of the subject matter. And what we're doing is saying, reject her, pass this. Reject her and pass this. We don't want this. Finally, hazard pay. Hazard pay has to be in the second stimulus package because it should be in the second stimulus package. It doesn't cost a lot of money. The remainder of the problem solvers bill is all good. Rent aid, eviction moratorium, mortgage forbearance, student loan debt for moratorium, money for food. It's all good. There's absolutely no reason not to pass it except the fact that perhaps it doesn't have a certain someone's name from Northern California on the bill. As you start the new morning, there's a lot coming up, and actually next coming up is Purple Power. I'm going to have a lot of details on what you should be doing and how you should be applying the pressure points. I'll be going over that a lot more, and you've been doing a great job on social media, but tune in for that for those details. As always, be informed, be focused, and be smiling. Go to the Front's channel if you've not. We're trying to continue to grow, trying to really get out the message. It really, really does help because this is an incredible community that everyone thinks alike. Everyone's trying to get everything to the same point. We're all trying to help one another, and we really are a wonderful community. Also like this video so that it helps the video appear higher in the ranks so that videos like aliens landing at Mark Meadows' office are really just not high in the rank, they're low in the rank. Coming up next is Purple Power. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, stay focused, and stay alive for more.